They wanted you broken because your rise reminded them of everything they could never become. And now that truth burns like daylight in a room full of shadows. They tried to kill your spirit, not just your name. What they did wasn't petty. This was an all-out war masked in smiles, handshakes, and fake concern. They weren't just trying to pull you down. They built a whole stage for your fall, wrote the script, and cast themselves as victims. But now, the curtain's been ripped down, and the audience sees everything. The lies, the plotting, the desperate attempts to erase your light. They're not whispers anymore. They're headlines. Before we dive deep into the chaos they created, make sure you like this video and hit subscribe. It's not just support, it's signal. Every time you engage, you help push this message out to more chosen ones who need it. You help them wake up, break out, and remember who they are. The algorithm doesn't know it, but you're helping spark a revolution just by pressing a button. So do it. Then let's go deeper. See, being chosen isn't about crowns or glory. It's a heavy thing. It means the universe marked you, whispered power into your soul, and sent you into a world that would try everything to mute you. That group, that so-called family, those fake allies, they weren't fighting you. They were fighting the force behind you. And the mistake they made? Thinking they could beat what was never about flesh and blood. The universe doesn't lose. It lets them run their little games until it doesn't. They tried to bury you in confusion, smear you in silence, and drown you in isolation. But what they didn't know is that silence grows roots and darkness trains warriors. While they laughed at your pain, you were becoming unbreakable. They thought the distance made you weak. It made you dangerous. To the chosen ones, stop doubting yourself. Stop acting like you're lost. The universe doesn't choose lightly. You were marked because you carry what they never will. Truth. And truth makes liars sweat. Your very existence is a threat to their illusions. That's why they tried so hard to erase it. Stop thinking you're alone. You were never alone. You were being refined. And now that the universe is moving, they're the ones who should be scared. You don't need revenge. You are the consequence. Your rise is the echo of every silent night you survived. Every betrayal you didn't return. Every attack you didn't respond to. And now you shine without permission. Think about it. How powerful must your presence be that they planned for years to stop it? That kind of fear doesn't come from someone ordinary. That's the power of being chosen. It haunts them. Your name haunts them. The fact that you still rise haunts them. They built illusions, but you were built by storms. And storms don't need validation. They just arrive. Keep watching. The exposure's just beginning. And before we crack this wide open, I need you to do something powerful. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal, the weight of fake love, or the chill of being targeted for simply existing, drop the number 77 in the comments right now. That's how I know you're tapped in. That's how we let the universe know more chosen ones are waking up. And the longer you stay with this, the more it will all click. This isn't just a story, it's your reflection in the fire. Now let's pull this all apart, piece by piece. If you're really chosen, you won't look away. Let's get into it. Number 1, when you dig a grave for the chosen, make it deep, because the universe might just bury you in it. They didn't fear your weakness. They feared the moment you'd remember who you are. They never thought you'd make it this far, not because they doubted your ability, but because they prayed you'd never wake up. They banked on your silence, your confusion, your exhaustion. They thought if they played God in your life long enough, you'd stop believing in your own power. But here's the catch. They weren't fighting you. They were at war with the very force that chose you. And that never ends well. These people, this group, this so-called family, this inner circle of carefully masked enemies, played a dangerous game. They tampered with energy they didn't understand. They tried to hijack the course of the universe like it was a board game they could cheat their way through. And for a while, they thought they were winning. They manipulated, they lied, they twisted truths and rewrote history, all to make you the villain in a story where you were the light. But the universe doesn't sleep. It observes, and when it moves heavy. That's what's happening now. The silence you endured has turned into thunder. The pain they caused has become their own mirror. The shadows they used to hide are now betraying them one by one. This isn't karma. This is cosmic correction. And when the universe corrects, it doesn't ask questions. It just acts. Let's make something clear. You being chosen wasn't about being lucky. It was about being ready. You were selected because you could carry what others couldn't, because you could survive what would have shattered the average soul. That wasn't a gift. That was a responsibility. And yeah, you got tired. Yeah, you doubted yourself. You questioned your light. You wondered, why me? Why the betrayal, the loss, the isolation? Here's the answer. Because your very presence was a glitch in their system. You came into their world with light they couldn't imitate and a soul they couldn't replicate. And the only thing a counterfeit fears is the presence of the real. So, they tried to discredit you, break you, exile you, destroy you. And still, you're here. You being here is the scandal they can't explain. You rising is the plot twist they never wrote for. That's why everything's unraveling now. Because truth doesn't just knock, it kicks doors off hinges when it's time. And for them, time's up. The same mouths that whispered behind your back are now choking on the truth. The same hands that threw dirt on your name are now digging their own graves. You don't have to lift a finger. You are the storm they can't escape. The shift in the air? That's the universe aligning. That's energy coming back to its rightful owner. You. See, people forget. When you are chosen, you don't walk alone. The whole universe starts bending reality to protect you, to expose lies, to destroy fake alliances. And when it moves in your favor, it doesn't come quietly. It comes like a wave, loud, fast, and unforgiving. So to the chosen ones still doubting, wake up. This is not the time to question your light. This is the time to own it. Stop apologizing for being difficult to manipulate. Stop shrinking to make cowards comfortable. You were never meant to blend in with them. You were meant to reveal them. You keep asking why they hate you, why they target you, why they won't stop. Simple. You remind them that their power is borrowed, their influence fake, and their identity stolen. You are the original blueprint. They copied everything but the resilience. So let them run scared. Let them gossip. Let them scramble to explain how the one they tried to bury is suddenly glowing with alignment. You don't owe them silence anymore. You don't owe them your confusion. You owe yourself the full expression of your truth. And here's something else. Never regret the isolation. That isolation, it was protection. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. You had to be pulled away to be pulled together. The universe had to strip the noise so you could finally hear your own voice again. And now that you've heard it, don't you dare silence it for anyone. Let this be your fuel. The very ones who laughed at your struggle are now the ones being exposed by your comeback. That's the real justice, not revenge, not petty payback, just truth. Unapologetic, unfiltered, undeniable truth. Their empire of lies is crumbling, not because you attacked them, but because the truth is finally louder than their deception. And that's what happens when the chosen stop sleeping on themselves. To those who tried to rewrite your destiny, here's your headline: you lost the moment the universe remembered who it sent. And to the chosen ones still rising, keep rising. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not alone. The cat's not just out of the bag. It's tearing through the whole damn circus. You were chosen for this exact moment. Now, act like it. Number 2, the great accounting. The universe never misses a move. And now, the bills come due. They thought they were playing chess while you were playing checkers. Thought they were 10 steps ahead, moving in silence, drawing maps for your destruction. But what they didn't realize is that every step they took against you lit up in the universe like a tracking device. Every whisper, every fake smile, every backroom plot. They weren't secrets. They were signatures. And the universe has receipts. All of them. This wasn't just betrayal. This was warfare. Spiritual, energetic, psychological warfare. A slow bleed designed to drain you quietly without ever showing a weapon. But the universe doesn't miss. It doesn't forget. It doesn't operate on your timeline. It waits until the moment is perfect. And then it makes a move so undeniable, so loud, that no lie can stand beside it. That moment is now. They underestimated the force they were up against. They thought this was personal, but they were fighting the system behind the system. They picked a battle with someone chosen, not realizing that when the universe chooses you, it places you under divine surveillance. And everything they did in darkness, logged, time-stamped, imprinted. There's no escape from the great accounting. It's not a courtroom. It's not karma in the casual sense. It's cosmic balance, a force that corrects imbalances without negotiation. This isn't payback. This is precision. Now look. Look closely. You're seeing the cracks, aren't you? The chaos creeping into their lives, the unraveling, the nervous eyes, the stories falling apart, the reputation starting to rot at the edges. That's not coincidence. That's collection day. The silence they laughed in is now the silence they're begging for. They didn't just build their power on lies. They built it on you. On manipulating your light, stealing your energy, creating a version of you that never existed just to justify their abuse. It was never about truth. It was always about control. And that illusion gave them comfort. It gave them status. But now that truth has walked in with steel-toed boots, their fantasies in flames. They thought no one saw, but everything was seen. The universe watched when they faked concern just to gather intel. It watched when they smiled in your face after trying to destroy your name. It watched when they celebrated your pain, when they played innocent, when they sowed division. And now it watches them unravel. To the chosen ones, don't think for 1 second that this is about luck or coincidence. You didn't just survive them, you outlasted them. That's power, that's legacy. You're not rising because it's your time. You're rising because the debt has come due, and they were foolish enough to think there wouldn't be interest. And don't forget, while you were sitting in pain, they were gathering trophies. They paraded your wounds like victories, turned your struggle into their storytelling. But now your healing is louder than their lies. Your comeback is the headline. That's what the great accounting looks like. It's not vengeance, it's balance restored. They always thought the ground was solid under their feet, but it was never earth. It was sand, and the more they moved, the faster it gave way. Now their house of cards collapses, and they're reaching out for anything to hold on to. But nothing's left. The universe gave them time, gave them warnings, gave them the option to stop. But arrogance made them deaf. Now, don't you dare shrink. This isn't the time for sympathy. This is the time to witness. Watch the collapse. Let it teach you. Let it confirm what you always felt but couldn't prove. That you weren't crazy, that you weren't overreacting, that the pain was real. And so is this justice. Understand this. Their desperation now isn't guilt. It's fear. Fear of exposure. Fear of losing the illusion. Fear of being seen as they truly are. Without your light to stand next to. Without your energy to feed off of. They aren't falling because you attacked. They're falling because the lie can no longer support their weight. That's the great accounting. It's not loud at first, but it's final. The same way they plotted in silence, the universe corrects in silence, until the crash is too loud to ignore. You were the target. Now you're the proof. Proof that energy never lies, truth always outlives deception, and the universe never forgets. And to those who played dirty, look around. The sky didn't fall. You did it. Number 3. The trap they set became their own stage. Now everyone's watching them fall. They built the stage to shame you, but the spotlight turned, and now they're center scene, caught in their own script of lies. The irony isn't just poetic, it's surgical. The very tools they used to bury you are now broadcasting your truth louder than ever. Every whisper they spread, every smear they launched, every manipulation they crafted has backfired in real time. What was meant to shut you down has done the exact opposite. You were supposed to disappear, but instead you've become unforgettable. That's not revenge, that's divine irony, served raw, served cosmic. Let's talk about what they didn't see coming. They thought they were writing your ending, that if they could isolate you long enough, shame you deep enough, confuse you just right, they could control the entire narrative. But here's the twist. They wrote the story, but they forgot who holds the pen. And the universe? It's one hell of a ghostwriter. Their system, their gossip chains, their alliances built on insecurity and ego. It was all designed like a trap, but they were too arrogant to realize they were locking themselves in it. And now the bars are closing. Slowly, publicly, painfully. Because now people are watching, and what they're seeing doesn't add up anymore. The chosen one they painted as too much, too emotional, unstable, difficult, is now rising with power and clarity while they scramble in confusion. You were the warning they ignored, the proof they thought they destroyed. But you're still standing, and your presence alone exposes them without a single word. See, that's the thing about light. It doesn't argue with darkness, it just shows up. And when it does, shadows don't get to negotiate. They shrink, they scatter, they lose their shape. That's what's happening now. You didn't force it, you just became it. the light. And what could be more ironic than that? They built a whole machine to erase you. And now that same machine is glitching out, glitching loud, repeating your truth like an echo they can't mute. The energy has flipped. The narrative has flipped. The stage they used to control is now a mess of collapsing props and exposed wires. And they're the ones caught center stage, stuttering through lines they never thought they'd have to defend. To the chosen ones still processing it all, let this be your confirmation. You were never the problem. You were the disruption. And their panic now is the result of a truth that refuses to be quiet anymore. You don't need to fight. You are the fight. You don't need to prove anything. Their unraveling is your proof. And let's not pretend this was accidental. No, this is alignment. This is the universe flexing with finesse. This is what happens when truth is delayed, but not denied. The universe let them dance in their illusion, let them play the part, and then flipped the lights on. Now every mask is melting, every performance is falling flat, and every spectator can see who's who. They thought they could outsmart fate, outsmart energy, outsmart you, but you don't outsmart the blueprint. You either align with it or get exposed by it. They moved with desperation. You moved with purpose. They talked circles. You sat in silence. And now the silence is screaming back at them. Let's address the doubt too, because I know some of you still question your light. You wonder if you're really chosen, if all of this is just coincidence. Let me remind you, if you weren't chosen, they wouldn't have tried so hard to destroy you. Nobody spends that kind of energy on something that isn't a threat. You were dangerous to their illusion the moment you walked in with truth in your presence. That's why they turned on you. That's why they panicked. And that's why this divine irony cuts so deep. It shows them that no matter how hard they tried, they could never rewrite what the universe had already declared. So let the irony play out. Don't interfere. Watch as the same systems they built for control collapse under the weight of exposure. Watch how fast the narrative shifts when your name rises from the ashes they tried to scatter. Watch how the light you carry burns through every fake storyline they've ever told. You are not their victim. You are their reminder. And the universe, it's not done yet. The twist is still twisting. The spotlight's still shifting. And every time they try to silence you again, your voice grows louder. Not because you're shouting, but because the truth now speaks for you. That's divine irony, and it hits exactly where it's supposed to. Number 4, the fire of truth doesn't knock, it consumes, and the lies can't outrun it. Lies are weak spells, pretty for a moment, but powerless when the storm arrives. There comes a point when pretending collapses under pressure, when illusions, no matter how carefully crafted, start to fray at the edges. And for them, that moment is now. The truth hasn't just shown up. It's crashing in like a tidal wave, with no intention of slowing down. The lies they clung to like armor, useless, melting, disintegrating in real time. They worked hard to shape a narrative, built it with trembling hands and borrowed masks. They positioned themselves as protectors, voices of reason, the calm in the storm, when in reality they were the architects of chaos. The villains dressed like saints, and they were banking on one thing, that you'd never speak, that no one would believe you, that your silence was weakness and not strategy. But silence isn't surrender, it's loading. And now, the moment has arrived where truth no longer needs to be shouted. It simply is. Visible, unavoidable, pure. Watch closely. You'll see it. The cracks in their story, the panic behind the smiles, the way their voices start to shake when questions get too close to the truth. That's not nerves. That's exposure. The house they built on manipulation is giving way, and every single brick is falling back on them. You know what's wild? They actually believed their own lies after a while, told them so often, so confidently, that they forgot they were fiction. They performed the hero, wore the costume, rehearsed the lines. But the thing about performance is, when the lights stay on too long, you start to sweat. And now, under this glare of truth, their costume is unraveling thread by thread. Because truth is a living force. It doesn't age, it doesn't weaken, it waits. And when it arrives, it spreads like fire across dry land. Fast, hungry, unforgiving. That's what you're witnessing now. The wildfire of reality devouring every story they spun to paint themselves in light and cast you into shadow. They tried to make you the villain in your own story, framed you with emotion, weaponized your pain, used your honesty against you, told others you were unstable, dramatic, too intense. But now people are starting to see. And when truth starts to click for the collective, lies fall apart like wet paper in the rain. Their favorite trick? Distraction. Point fingers. Blame the chosen one. Make the light seem dangerous so they could hide in the dark undisturbed. But truth doesn't get distracted. It cuts through all of that noise with surgical precision. One revelation at a time. One exposed message, one contradiction, one undeniable moment. It's almost beautiful the way lies unravel, not with explosions, but with quiet devastation. Molecule by molecule, they break down. The narrative decays, the mask slips, and suddenly the crowd they convinced starts asking questions, starts remembering things, starts noticing. And when people notice, it's over. To the chosen ones, never doubt the power of your truth. You didn't need to force anything. The energy always catches up. The lie might fly for a while, but truth moves differently. It moves with inevitability. You were never crazy. You were never the villain. You were the mirror they couldn't look into without seeing their own rot. The universe is meticulous. It doesn't forget. It doesn't overlook what was done to you. That's why you're seeing things collapse now. And no, it's not coincidence. It's consequence. It's the natural law kicking in. And let's address your doubt real quick, because I know some of you still carry it. You wonder, what if they're still winning? Let me tell you something. If they were still winning, they wouldn't be panicking. They wouldn't be scrambling for control. They wouldn't be silencing people, deleting things, rewriting stories. That's not power. That's collapse in motion. They were never strong. They were just loud. And now, even their volume can't save them. Truth has arrived like a blinding light, uncompromising, brutal, honest, and it's burning through everything false like sunlight on a lie written in fog. So let it burn. Let it all come crashing down, because every structure built on deceit deserves the fire. And when the flames clear, only the truth will be left standing, just like you. Number 5. They built a throne on lies. Now it's crumbling beneath them, piece by glorious piece. You can build your castle with stolen bricks, but don't be surprised when the walls fall in on you. There's a particular sound that comes right before collapse. It's not loud at first. just a subtle shift, a pressure change in the air, a tension. Then comes the creak, the snap, the groan of something once proud, buckling under the weight of truth. That's what's happening right now. What you're hearing isn't chaos, it's justice in motion. They thought they were invincible, untouchable, so sure of their ability to bend the narrative to their will, they mistook their own lies for foundation. But what happens when you build on rot? It doesn't matter how tall the structure is. If the ground beneath is hollow, collapse is guaranteed. And the ground is breaking. You can hear it. You can feel it. That's not just karma. It's structural failure, spiritual bankruptcy. The bill is past due, and the weight of everything they denied, buried, twisted and covered up is crashing down like bricks in a storm. Their arrogance, breathtaking. Their downfall, even more so. Let's not pretend this is surprising, though. You saw it long before anyone else did. You felt the wrongness in the way they moved. You sensed the falseness in their smiles. You tried to warn people, tried to explain. But back then, they called you the problem, labeled you too intense, too sensitive, too negative. And now even their most loyal defenders are squinting through the smoke, backing away in silence. The ones who swore loyalty are suddenly mute, because no one wants to be standing next to a collapsing tower. No one wants the dust and debris of exposed deception clinging to their name. So one by one, they distance themselves. One by one, they pretend they didn't know. But you knew. You always knew. You watched them play puppet master, watched them build a kingdom of illusion, one fake smile and forced alliance at a time. They called it leadership, called it protection, but it was never that. It was control, it was ego, it was fear. Fear of what would happen if the truth ever took root. Well, the truth has not only taken root, it sprouted and bloomed into a reckoning, and the walls are coming down, fast. You might ask yourself now, why didn't anyone believe me back then? Why did I have to suffer alone while they thrived off the lies? Because that's how it always starts. The truth is never loud in the beginning. It waits, it watches, it grows underground. But when it blooms, it's undeniable. And those who doubted you now sit quiet, watching everything you warned them about unfold like a slow-motion avalanche. To the chosen ones, do not let this moment pass without understanding what's really happening. You're not just watching their collapse. You're watching the confirmation of your truth. You're watching the validation of your pain. The things you survived in silence are now screaming in public. This isn't petty. This isn't revenge. This is realignment. The balance of energy being restored after years of false power and borrowed influence. They were so sure they'd never be exposed, so confident in their alliances, their manipulation, their little circle of enablers. But nothing built on injustice can stand when the universe comes knocking. And the universe is knocking hard. This collapse isn't just physical, it's reputational, spiritual, energetic. It's the kind of fall you don't recover from easily, the kind that takes your legacy with it, the kind that forces even your closest allies to pretend they never knew you. And that's exactly what's happening. Watch them scatter, watch them backpedal, watch them delete, deny, distance. Because loyalty built on lies was never loyalty. It was fear, opportunity, and convenience. And once the illusion is gone, so is the support. Now, breathe. Let this sink in. Let yourself witness it. Because this is what happens when the truth finally gets tired of being ignored. This is what happens when the chosen stop apologizing for being inconvenient. They tried to silence you, tried to erase you, tried to flip the script and paint themselves as heroes. But now the script has flipped itself. And the ending? It's nothing like they planned. No more hiding, no more pretending. The weight of their actions has finally crushed the fantasy, and all that's left is the wreckage, and you rising from it. Number 6. When the pieces connect, the mask shatters, and the pattern exposes everything. A lie can stand on its own for a while, but stack enough of them together and they collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. At first, it was just a whisper, a look, a subtle pause when your name came up. People weren't ready to believe you. They were too wrapped up in the image, too blinded by the charm, the performance, the illusion. They wanted to believe in what was convenient. But now, the fog is clearing. And what's emerging from that fog isn't just a crack in the story, it's the whole pattern. Ugly, undeniable, and unmistakably aimed at you. That's the thing about deception. When it's fresh, it's clean, polished, controlled. But over time, even the best lies start to rot. And when they do, the stink becomes impossible to ignore. Now, the very people who once defended them, who nodded along, who parroted their version of events, they're looking around, wide-eyed, asking the same question. How did I not see this before? Because now they do. The puzzle pieces are clicking into place. What once looked like random conflicts, isolated misunderstandings, and personality clashes has formed a clear constellation of intention. And that constellation spells out exactly what this was: a targeted campaign of destruction, not an accident, not a misunderstanding, not miscommunication, calculated harm, rehearsed sabotage, coordinated smear. And it always pointed back to you. Let's make it plain. They were never just reacting. They were planning. Every conversation, every narrative, every false claim spun in hushed tones and dramatic pauses. They were planting seeds, setting traps, shaping perceptions. And while you were trying to understand why things felt so wrong, they were doubling down. They spent more energy crafting their alibis than they did being decent humans. The lies weren't casual. They were engineered. The attacks weren't spontaneous. They were strategic. The rehearsals, the sync-up sessions, the coordinated stories they told mutuals behind closed doors. None of it was by accident. They treated your life like a stage production, each of them playing their role, timing their lines, perfecting their false outrage. But now the script is falling apart in their hands, and those lines they once recited so confidently are turning on them. Because evidence stacks, memories resurface, details that didn't make sense before suddenly do. One person speaks up, then another, and suddenly what they swore was just your issue becomes a full-blown pattern, a map of malice, a blueprint of betrayal. What they failed to understand was that truth has a rhythm. It reveals itself when the timing is right. You don't have to force it. You just have to outlast the lie. And you did. You made it through the fog. You made it through the isolation. You made it through the gaslighting and the guilt. And now, the light is hitting all the cracks they tried to patch with performance. Their efforts to maintain control, wasted. All those nights they stayed up spinning damage control, calling in favors, manipulating people into silence. Gone. All those conversations they had behind closed doors, lining up stories, rehearsing how to handle you. Useless. Because the moment people started comparing notes, the illusion exploded. That's how it happens. First, confusion, then curiosity, then clarity. And now they're exposed, not just for what they did, but for how often they did it. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a habit, a cycle, and everyone's seeing it now. The pattern can't be unseen, and it points back to the same people every time. To the chosen ones watching this all unfold, breathe it in. This is the shift, the vindication that doesn't need to scream, because reality is doing the talking now. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to convince anyone. The pattern is the proof. The collapse is the confession. And their silence, that's their guilt, finally catching up to them. You were never paranoid. You were never too much. You were never imagining things. You were the target of a carefully built machine designed to break you, but you survived. And now that machine is rusting in the open air, broken and leaking in front of everyone they fooled. Let it happen. Let it all rise to the surface. The lies are no longer sticking. The truth has turned magnetic, and every false narrative is being pulled apart, piece by piece. This is what happens when darkness runs out of places to hide. The pattern isn't just visible, it's loud, and the ones who swore they'd never turn on them, they're already backing away, realizing too late that standing beside a liar means eventually being mistaken for one too. The story is no longer theirs to tell. It's yours now, and it's finally being heard. Number 7. The spotlight burns now, and the curtain's been ripped clean off. A lie can dazzle like stage lights, but when the curtain falls, all that's left is the mess behind the scenes. It's happening right now, the exposure, the reckoning, that moment when the masks crack, when the show can't go on, when the crowd starts seeing the strings and wires behind the illusion, and it all falls apart. What they built to last forever is buckling under the weight of truth, and no performance can save it now. They spent so long perfecting the act, every denial rehearsed, every outburst choreographed, every sob story designed to pierce sympathy while dodging accountability. They played the role of the misunderstood, the attacked, the innocent, and it worked for a while. People bought the show, clapped for the performance, believed the tears. But the truth? The truth doesn't perform. It pierces, and when it finally shows up, it doesn't ask for permission. It rips off the costumes, kicks down the stage, and turns on the house lights. That's what's happening now. You're watching the final act, and it's not a drama, it's a collapse. Their elaborate structure of deceit, all the scaffolding they built to hold their lies in place, is shaking. Each support beam, the fake stories, the strategic alliances, the emotional manipulation, is starting to crack. The quake of revelation has hit, and nothing is safe. This is what happens when reality catches up to the performance. The spotlight shifts, and instead of admiration, there's interrogation. Suddenly, those loud denials sound hollow. The same voices that once screamed innocence are now stuttering. The very eyes that cried on cue now dart in panic, looking for exits. The performance has ended, and the crowd is no longer clapping. They're questioning. Because here's the thing, people are waking up. The spell is breaking. And once someone sees the trick behind the illusion, they can't unsee it. The emotional bait they use to manipulate others, it's no longer working. The audience has stepped behind the curtain, and now they see it for what it really was. A con, a scam, a production. They relied on emotional shortcuts. They thought if they looked sincere, cried convincingly, or yelled loud enough, they could override logic, bypass evidence, shut down questions. But emotion without truth is just performance. And now, no one's buying tickets. The stage is emptying. The crowd is walking out. And all that's left is the raw, ugly mechanism of what they really were. To the chosen ones, this is what you've been waiting for. This is why you had to endure so long in silence. Because the truth takes time to build its case. But when it delivers, it erases illusions with fire. You never needed to scream. You never needed to force it. The truth is now doing what you couldn't. It's showing. Their kingdom of lies had one fatal flaw. It relied on everyone else staying asleep. But now the eyes are opening. Questions are being asked, and the energy has turned. This is exposure in its purest form. Not just being caught, but being seen. Not just in action, but in intention. And when intention is revealed, there's no coming back from that. People don't just see what they did. They now understand why they did it. That's the reckoning. That's the burn that doesn't fade. That's when the narrative flips from maybe they made a mistake to they knew exactly what they were doing. You've been doubted, discredited, and dragged, while they basked in the spotlight you were supposed to shrink under. But now, that spotlight is scorching them. It's exposing every false smile, every forced tear, every time they clutch their fake virtue like a shield. That shield is gone now, melted. And the fallout, it's glorious. They can't run, they can't talk their way out, they can't guilt their way through, because people see. And once that collective vision is locked in, the reckoning is unstoppable. Reputations are dropping, support is vanishing, and all they can do is stand there, exposed under the very lights they use to control. This is the moment the curtain falls, and the truth takes center stage. No script, no costume, just raw reality, and the undeniable collapse of a lie too arrogant to consider consequences. The reckoning has arrived. And the chosen? You were never the villain. You were the mirror, and they couldn't stand what it showed them. Now, the whole world sees it too. Number 8. They tried to erase your spirit, but the universe doesn't delete what it designed. When the soul carries truth, no lie can hold its place in history. They didn't just want you silenced, they wanted you forgotten, rewritten, edited out, reduced to a whisper in a story where you were the backbone. They tried to make you a footnote, something small, something forgettable. But what they failed to understand is this: truth doesn't shrink, and your energy was never meant to fit in the margins. You are the chapter. You were always the pulse running through the story. And no amount of manipulation, gaslighting, or fake storytelling could change that. They thought if they ignored your impact long enough, the world would forget it ever mattered, that your contributions would fade, that your presence could be swallowed by their version of events. But truth has memory, reality has roots, and it grows back, stronger, louder, more undeniable, every time someone tries to bury it. Now, their version of the past is collapsing. That carefully rewritten script is falling apart in people's hands. The facts don't match. The timelines contradict. The narrative they pushed so hard can't stand up against lived experience anymore. And the deeper people look, the more obvious it becomes. They lied. Not once, not occasionally, consistently. They lied to erase you. They lied to protect their image. And they lied to themselves, thinking they could rewrite spiritual truth with ego and fear. But here's the deeper layer, the part most people miss. This isn't just emotional fallout or social exposure. This is a spiritual reckoning. What they're dealing with now isn't punishment from some external force. It's not a thunderbolt from the sky. It's not superstition or divine wrath. It's balance. It's physics on a soul level. Because energy doesn't vanish. It recycles. It balances. And every action taken out of alignment with truth has a cost. Every manipulation rooted in fear, every choice driven by greed, every attempt to discredit you because your light made them uncomfortable, it added up, quietly, constantly, and now the weight of it is demanding release. This is karmic gravity, and no one escapes it, not by status, not by charm, not by lies told well enough to convince a crowd. That's the thing about spiritual truth. It doesn't need applause to be real. It just is. And when the time is right, it rises to the surface, indifferent to their storylines, unmoved by their denials. Their spiritual bankruptcy is loud now. You can see it in the way they react, desperate, defensive, paranoid. That's not regret. That's imbalance catching up. It's a soul that knows it's out of integrity and doesn't know how to get back. They traded alignment for control, traded peace for performance, and the universe let them for a time. But time doesn't equal immunity. You weren't cast aside because you were weak. You were targeted because your presence disrupted their illusion. You carried something they couldn't fake: spiritual clarity, inner alignment, authentic resonance. And that kind of power unsettles those who operate in shadows. They tried to dim you because they couldn't match you. And now the karmic tide has turned. Their manipulation is costing them their peace. Their avoidance is eating away at their credibility. And the same energy they spent trying to erase you, it's returning to them with interest. This isn't revenge. This isn't cruelty. This is the quiet law of balance showing up to restore what they spent years trying to distort. The universe doesn't need rage. It just needs time. And when time runs out, truth takes over. To the chosen ones, you don't need to seek justice. You are the justice. Your survival is the imbalance correcting itself. Your clarity is the undoing of their fog. And your truth, once ignored, is now the very force shaking the foundations they built on lies. What you feel now isn't just validation, it's restoration. The spiritual accounting has begun, and every soul is being measured, not by words, but by energy, not by image, but by intention. That's the level where truth lives. So let it unfold. Let the imbalance correct itself. You don't have to lift a hand. You were the storm the whole time. They just mistook your silence for surrender. And now their fiction fades, and your light writes itself into the story they tried to erase, permanently. Number 9. The final shift has begun, not in silence, but in undeniable force. They mocked the unseen, laughed at the idea of spiritual consequence, and moved like they were untouchable. But now they stand exposed, stripped of the lies, the masks, the fake power they clung to. The very forces they denied are now surrounding them, holding up the mirror they can't escape. Every ounce of energy they sent out has returned home. And this time, it's demanding answers. This isn't just a shift of who holds the mic. This is the collapse of a corrupted system, a rewrite of what power even means. You were never dependent on their validation. You didn't need to be seen by them to be chosen. And that's what they never understood. Their attempt to destroy you only made your purpose louder. Their hate only confirmed your light. They went to war, thinking they were fighting you, but they were fighting the current of the universe, and now they're drowning in it. The final shift is not a warning. It's here, and you are still standing, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. They tried to erase you. Instead, they revealed exactly why the universe chose you in the first place.